Islamic microfinance is becoming an increasingly popular mechanism for poverty alleviation, especially for developing countries around the world. This microfinance service adheres to the principles of Islam as a form of social responsibility. Yonah Islamic Microfinance is the Islamic microfinance of choice in the Gambia, trustworthy and reliable. At Yonah Islamic Microfinance, we provide savings products, current accounts, financing products in conformity with Islam. In addition, Yonah Islamic Microfinance also offers local and international remittances, takaful fund, management of zakat, management of awqaf, trading and investment, and building of strategic partnerships to bring financial services to the doorstep of the poor with donor projects, madrasas, youth organizations, women groups, and farmer organizations. Make a choice with Yonah Islamic Microfinance today. For more information on Yonah Islamic Microfinance, call 377-2151 or 9832-151 or visit Yonah head office at Tipa Garage, Bakote, or visit any Yonah branch located countrywide near you.
We all know what has been happening these few days, and we are not here to blame anybody. But we want to state clearly what we have been doing so that we all understand. Education is everybody's business, and it is also right and fitting that when we have certain misunderstandings, it is good to clear the air so that everybody will also be aware what actually happened and what we have been doing. We all know that we have a lot of messages going around, but nonetheless, MoBSE was not heard, and we are a party to it. We thought that it is fitting that we call up this press conference and also make our own statement. So it's not going to be a long press briefing. So we'll allow the permanent secretary to make a statement.
This is relating to the COVID-19 allowance that related to the sit-down strike by teachers, so the laying down of tools by teachers. Let me say that when we opened schools in October 2020, we invited some of you to share the model that we had as a sector. This model was supposed to look at what needed to be done in our schools, including the related cost in doing what we wanted to do. As a sector, the policy requires that we have 46 students in a class. That's why you have 23 benches, seating 2 students per bench in a class. But when the COVID hit, the Ministry of Health and the World Organization, the Health Organization, WHO, brought in some protocols and regulations that we needed to observe because of COVID. And in that regard, schools were requested or required to reduce the class size from either 46 in a standard class, or in some cases where you have larger numbers, like in the Bundums, the Serakundas, to reduce those in the 50s and more to the same 23. When that happens, it means a normal class of 46 students will now be divided into 2. And any class that is 60 would be divided into 3. So therefore, you would need more teachers, more classroom, more teaching and learning materials to be able to do that. So when we did the model, initially, when we limit our class sizes to 23, there were 29 schools that would have been affected. So we came up with different methods. We came up with double shifting. We came up with alternating. Double shifting would mean that students will go to school from Monday to Friday. Some will go to school Monday to Friday in the morning, and the others will go Monday to Friday in the afternoon. But alternating is in the case where students will be required to go to either 3 days a week in some cases or 4 days a week in some other cases. But how that is done in terms of the number of days and which class goes 4 days or 3 days was left to the school administrators because they know the students that they want to prioritize. For example, whether the grade 12 they would prioritize or the grade 9s. That's what warranted that kind of modeling system. So we invited everybody, including all the stakeholders, and shared this. We floated it and said, anybody who has to go to school from Monday to Saturday because of COVID, we will pay you for the Saturday class. However, there were schools that would have the luxury of going to school Monday to Friday without problems. And that is because those schools' size are not as many students as the other. And that was across the country. When we rolled this out into the system, school administrators, based on the love for their students, decided to see how they also do what we call a catch-up plan, which we developed. What is this catch-up plan? You may recall that the 17th of March 2020, schools were closed until the 14th of October and the 18th of October when they were reopened. So that gap that the students lost, which translated to 265 contact hours, that was what resulted or warranted that catch-up plan, so that the time they lost during that period could be recovered for them, more especially for the students who are on examination class, and this I refer to grade 9s and grade 12. So that was rolled in. At the end of the year, we requested for the data from the schools and the regions to see who has taught from Monday to Friday to Saturday because of COVID, so that they could be paid as we promised them. The data we got, we processed it, and teachers were paid by the December salary payment. However, there were some data that were still remaining because of the adjustment that some head teachers or administrators decided to do in helping their students. So that data came late, and when it came, it was subjected to verification, as we did in the past, for them to be paid. The reason for verification is to ensure that people who taught between this period or on Saturdays are paid appropriately. For example, if a particular school only taught on Saturday for 2 weeks, and another taught on Saturday for 1 month or 2 months, these teachers cannot be paid the same, can they? No. So we needed to verify that. So in January, we did the verification and processed the payment. Unfortunately, when the payment got to the payment point, there were some administrative observations that they had, and that challenged the payment for the month of January. When this was brought to the attention of our partners, it was difficult for them to understand and bear with us. And as a result, there were engagements, and we requested for time to be able to professionally and procedurally do the process that is required for the payments to be done. We couldn't meet their time line as they wanted, and that's what led to the sit-down strike. So in short, just for you to understand what led to that sit-down strike. The ministry has always been committed to ensuring that the plight of teachers is looked at and addressed. And that can be seen from the different interventions that the ministry has done over the last year or more. So in brief, this is what happened, and we thought we needed to share with you so that it is not us being said in some quarters that every teacher was to be paid. No, it is not us. We were selective in payment. No, it is not us. We paid some and left others. No, it is because we pay as the data comes and as we verify those data for us to be able to pay accordingly. These are public funds, and they must be accountable for. And as a sector, we needed to do that process. I think without much in summary, that's what happened. But just as an update, when we showed commitment in paying, last week we were able to pay the remaining teachers as per the data we got. We were able to pay them. And as a result of that, the union, the Gambia Teachers Union, uplifted the ban on the strike, and classes have resumed in earnest. But let me use this opportunity to say that we have always, in the past, which some of you can bear, commended our teachers for the work they've been doing. You may recall when this COVID hit, some teachers, especially in provinces, developed some hubs to support their students. Some went the extra mile to teach all the week, just because they wanted to help. And we have always recognized that. We have always appreciated that. And we have always commended them for that, which is on record. So we do recognize the efforts of our teachers. And we have always worked also with the Gambia Teachers Union in the past. We have a renewed relationship. And we want to commend them for the resumption of class after the payment of the other balance that was there. But notwithstanding, I also want to use this forum to say and appeal to my teachers and say, if there is anyone that is erroneously left out, or who thinks he or she has taught and should have been paid and has not been paid, I request that they channel their correspondence to their head teachers, to the regional office, and even to GTU, so that we could compile those, review them, verify them, and pay them accordingly if there is any, just to ensure that there is smooth teaching and learning in our schools. it's out of this particular strike issue, but I also want to use the opportunity to say there was also something on the new pay scale, which I want to talk about. That the new pay scale is being developed by PMO, and it's been worked on daily basis before its implementation in July. But let me say, in the previous pay scales, there is none that has been implemented without hitches. A new pay scale will always be implemented with some hitches. We are not anticipating that this one will follow the same pattern, but at least we need to draw reference from the past. But in the event that happens and some of our teachers are affected, I would request that they follow due process by bringing up their complaint through their heads, through the regional office, and also through GTU, so that it could be quickly addressed within the first 3 months of its implementation.
About the COVID-19 allowance, which we are supposed to be paid to the teachers. First, how did we get into this situation? Because it could have been avoided. You are affected. Our kids, our brothers and sisters who go to school on a daily basis. So if there is an industrial action by teachers going to classes and teach, it will affect everybody. How did we get into this situation?
Okay.
I think in my submission, I actually touched on that, but let me re-echo again. Like I said, we only started processing the payment for the COVID allowance in December, so that we have a full year. That was the close of the year before the other financial year started. So we requested for the data in October, November from schools through their regional directorates. Like I said, there were some schools that had their data intact and they submitted and they have been paid. However, in between, there were others that were claiming that they too should be paid because they were participating. And when their data came after the first one, we needed to verify that to ensure that everyone is paid appropriately. We wouldn't, as a sector, underpay or overpay anybody. Then it brings chaos. Remember, we do not have the luxury of requesting for any amount of funds. It was based on something that was programmed and planned. And what we have to do must fit within that was budgeted. So in the second batch, like I said, it was processed. The data we received was processed up to payment point, which is outside the sector. And there were some challenges at that point. And before those challenges could be resolved, we were already in 2022. The books of government were closed in December 2021. So even if we had wanted to pay at that time, we couldn't have, because the process of government payment has been closed. So this could have only been done in January, which we did in January. But at payment point, there were some challenges at that point. And it could not be resolved within the given time, like I said earlier on, by the teachers' union. And that's what resulted to the situation you are referring to.
So I'm a reporter from Kerr. My first question goes to the peers. I visited some schools and I was told that you went around when this strike started. You said you take teachers based on the names that you have or the data that you collected. Now, is it the list that you collect from schools when you are going around taking field, or you are provided a list by the regional office? That is the first question. So the second question, I don't know whether the representatives of Region 1 and Region 3 are here. I will ask the reason why their data was left if other regions can submit on time, so we will want to understand why their data was late. So the third question will be, at least almost a week, there is no school. How do you intend to cover this contract as a ministry?
Let me say that my visit to the schools came after the first payment. It was just last week that I visited the schools. In fact, to be precise, last week, Wednesday. And the schools I visited were LK and Talinding, because they were the ones that I got message that they were on sit-down strike. And when I went there, I requested for their data just to ensure and compare whether they were not among the first batch that was processed in payment. If so, then they could be paid. And when I got that data, I brought it. Those that were omitted in the previous payment, they were processed and they were paid. So it's not that we just requested during my visit, no. My visit, what warranted it is because as the head of the sector, I wanted to know how many people are affected, how many schools are affected. Not only for the purpose of collecting data for payment, but also for planning purpose. How do we now plan for the catch-up plan that you asked, your question number three. That was one of the reasons for that visit. It is unless when you get data, you cannot do any planning or any work. Because if we just take for general or for granted that it was every school that never went to school, then we will be mistaken. But at least if we know the schools that did not go to school, we'll be able to work with the administrations of those schools to say you need to do something for the lost time. And that's what warranted that, as an answer to your second question. Third question, sorry. You will know and you'll agree that we are always very, very committed as a sector, and our teachers are always willing to support us in our catch-up plan when we lose time. That's what led to even the catch-up plan for the 265 lost hours, contact hours, that was lost between March 17th.
I just want to establish how you get this data, the teachers that you have paid right now, the teachers that were involved in this.
Buba, let's take
Is it the second payment?
Yes, the last payment.
The last payment. The last payment, we got data from every corner. When I say every corner, from the schools, from the principals, from the regional office, and from GTU. We shared the data with them, just to ensure, like I said, just to ensure that nobody is left out. We had all those three checks, just as a way of verifying. So it's just not the data we collected. It was all from these collection points.
Just to put things in a clear perspective, Region 1 particularly was not late in their submission. And we did submit. But as PS rightly says, the data has to be looked at. And it has posed some challenges, actually, when we were looking at the data. The other aspect is we set in two sets of data. One was for the public schools, which we have to provide the employment numbers of teachers where they are going to be paid directly to their accounts. The other set of teachers was those in the grant-aided schools, that is the missions and senior secondary schools that are on board, whose teachers don't have employment numbers. That posed a challenge to accounts to pay directly to them. So those were some of the schools that were late to be paid. But the data was available because they have to be paid now to their school accounts, then the schools now to pay the individual teachers. Those poses a problem to some of the payments, but not necessarily the data was not there, right? So I know my colleagues in all the other regions, we do have some challenges. Some teachers were left out. Even today, I'm receiving some who are saying they were left out, and the head teachers are writing to that effect and bringing it. And we are collating all these things. So it's not a question of data was not collected. Data was collected, and the ones that we had from the schools, we submitted that. But still now we are having, because these are money issues. Some were in the schools, they participated in this and left to the university. Others are at the college. Others left the public schools, are in private schools. They are coming now to claim that they were in the schools in those days. So these are all things that we have to put together. So if we cannot say that the data was not there. The data is there, but the data cannot be as clean as we want it. And any data that comes, we have to look at it properly before we submit. As Pierce rightly said, these are public funds, and we have to be careful what we do, because we don't want to overpay or underpay anybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Agada di.
Mbijan raganyadi.
Albaka.
Mbaka important.
Yo, nga transfer la sto.
Ya transfer la sto.
Ha, code nyinji.
Okay. Important. Nsila ID soto.
Ha, sa soto. Sorry. Agada di.
Mbijan bro.
Albaka.
Mbaka.
Bara alla service o tariaka.
Ah,
mbare. Mo ki janna nun kunu bara tariaka.
Jannom Yonah Forest de Bureau. Gambia tonkon na no mbari ya bere. Birim koyna fo katon.
Bari si kodo kino katon nim fo bolong blabe ko.
56 branches mola soto Gambia jam.
Ha?
Gambia kono anin Gambia bantala bankol. Nka kodo kiya bere. Kodo sifa fo falindiro fo nyaadi lafta memmen na kodi to poto nin kodi maraw. Jannom number 1 di nyonta. Andum fana nata anoda enterprise sotale. Wolam nyindi ko domorol fana kol fana be firale de dadi mani domorol dir fana beteat. Gambia dawda yalo ma fa kendol sotale je.
Wo moyo diat ha.
Apelenta
barka ba. Ni lafta nyelen kendol e binaji.
Yalo bukani la ko la barka ba.
Yalo ndel chosano lo.
Abarka.
We live in a day and age where technology is creating a world without borders, filled with unlimited potential to improve the lives of the people around us. Innovorex Global Health ushers in a new way of leveling the playing field with increased access to quality healthcare services delivered at your doorstep. Our qualified professionals are equipped with state-of-the-art point-of-care testing technology to conduct tests such as kidney function, liver function, electrolyte tests, body composition, hemoglobin, A1C, and many more services with the highest efficiency in delivering results. The addition to our flagship Wellness on Wheels, more fondly known as WOW Delivery Service, brings the entire clinical experience full circle. IGH has remained committed to creating the future of healthcare delivery. Gone are the days of sending loved ones outside the country for basic medical services. Innovorex Global Health offers a new peace of mind and takes pride in delivering the quality of care we all deserve.